Well, folks, we have a new massive report out from The Hill regarding Kamala Harris and the 2026 gubernatorial election in California. The report says that Kamala Harris is leaning towards entering the California gubernatorial election later this summer, according to sources familiar with the former vice president. While the sources caution that Harris hasn't made a final decision yet and is still considering all of her options, they say that she has made it clear that she is not done with public service, which is kind of surprising, I'm going to be honest with you. Very surprising to me, because the way she's acted since the 2024 loss very much leads me to believe that she's done. She doesn't want to run anymore. She doesn't want to do anything. You were the vice president of the United States. You were a senator from the most populous state in America. You were the attorney general of the most populous state in America. And you are running as if you're not the leader of the Democrat Party. And that's clearly why there is a huge vacuum at the top of the leadership in the Democrat Party, is because Kamala Harris has been completely absent. She is the only person who could be right now the leader of the party, but instead she's letting people like AOC and Tim Walz beat her out on that. Now, according to the article, those who have spoken to Harris about the possibility of entering the race say it's given her a renewed sense of excitement, and one source put it as a glimmer in her eyes, which I guess it makes sense. Like, let's be honest about this. It makes sense because she got smoked in the 2024 election. I mean, she got smoked. It was not a good night for her. But now you're looking at a race where the last time, and obviously the last time there was a governor's election in California was I guess it was in 22. Newsom won by 18 points. You look at the recall in 2021. Newsom got 60%, 61% of the vote. You go back to, oh my goodness, 2018 on here. Newsom wins by 23 points. This is going to be a safe Democrat seat right here. So, of course, it's a glimmer in her eyes. She can get back into power, and maybe it's going to be a launch board for a 2032, 2036. Yes, will she be in her 70s at that point? But she'll have been the vice president, the governor of California, a senator from California, an attorney general from California. But maybe Americans are just done with California. Maybe they have had enough of the bullcrap policies that they espouse. That's at least what I think. But either way, sources say that Harris is sticking to a self-imposed end-of-summer deadline in deciding whether she will make her way into the California gubernatorial election, which is already crowded, where you're going to see people like former Los Angeles Mayor Antonio Villagrosa and former California Attorney General Javier Becerra, who is also a member of the Biden administration. He was, of course, the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Now, the report says that Harris is planning to take some time off in July to really reflect on what the next step in her career is going to be. Honestly, she could do America a good service and just never run again. Because we know it's like California. You wonder why California is so bad. It's one of the few states that has had liberal supermajorities there for 20 years. That you can look and see why is California so bad. Look at who's been governing the state of California. Look who's been covering it. But getting back to Harris, she has been participating in a number of conversations about the political climate in the state, in the issues on the minds of California voters, particularly when it comes to young voters, holding lengthy discussions about the future of artificial intelligence. But also, she's kind of had a very weak schedule, if I'm going to be honest with you. As someone who could potentially be the leader of the Democrat Party, it's been a very weak schedule. She sent in a 3-minute pre-recorded video to the Democrat National Convention in California in 2025. You are either A, the leader of the party, or B, the leader in the California gubernatorial election, the highest election you can seek in the state of California, and you don't even bother to show up for the convention. You just send your regards. You send in a pre-recorded video. Then she was giving speeches to Australian businessmen. Like, what? But she has been kind of dabbling her toes back into some of the political action that's going on, talking about these ICE raids, saying, quote, in addition to the recent ICE raids in Southern California and across our nation, it is part of the Trump administration's, quote, cruel, calculated agenda to spread panic and division, she added. Oh, my God. Americans support Donald Trump when it comes to immigration. Over 60% they support what he's doing. So if there's anything you're going to start piping up about, I would pipe down about this, if I'm being honest with you. You people have no ground to stand on. You people let 10 to 20 million illegal, undocumented, a big chunk of them, which were criminals, sexual predators, rapists, murderers, gang members, you let them into the country. So I think you should just pipe down, keep your mouth shut about this, because you guys did a horseshit job when it came to it. Horseshit job. And she wants to talk about how she's appalled by the Trump administration's bold moves, like deploying the National Guard, and feels that the president is governed by loyalty and retribution, and that such actions will propel her to re-enter the public service. Oh, give me a break. Give me a fucking break. What a joke. You you had $1.5 billion. $1.5 billion, and you had basically all of your cronies across the country trying to put Trump in jail, trying to suck as much cash out of him as you possibly could. Don't even, and let's not even start with the fact that she concealed the mental decline of former President Biden. You know, that's something she's going to have to deal with. She's going to have to contend with that. This narrative, and Javier Becerra, the HHS secretary. How much did they know? When did they know it? What did they do to conceal Biden's decline? And Republicans, and there are some Democrats who are even pressing her on it, but Republicans are going to press hard on this. One of her Democrat opponents in the Democrat primary is saying voters, quote, voters deserve to know the truth. What did Kamala Harris and Javier Becerra know? When did they know it? And most importantly, why didn't either of them speak out? This cover-up directly led to a second Donald Trump term. Okay, well, you know what? You're not wrong. I definitely think there were direct correlations between the Biden mental decline cover-up and Trump becoming president, but also just the fact that Biden was elected to, quote, be a normal president, to be a transitory president, and then moves forward trying to enact some of the most liberal policies we've seen in 80 years in the country. He was just supposed to not be Donald Trump. But then it turns out your policies are actually really bad, and when we put your policies up against ours, we win. Our policies win. That's the reality. But if Harris decides to run for governor, it would be a significant move for the 2028 presidential election, because it is very clear that this is a binary decision. Harris can either run in 2028 or she can run in 2026. If she does the other is off the table. Because she would have to go out with a straight face and tell everyone when she's running for governor in 2026 that she would not run for president in 2028. Now, obviously, if she loses, because there's a good chance that two Democrats could advance to the primary. I don't think it'll happen, but I think there's a possibility that two Democrats could advance to the primary because, you know, California has an open primary. Okay, but look at this. An Emerson College poll right here showed that 57% of Democrat primary voters would vote for Kamala Harris. 57%. And there was another poll from Politico that revealed that 33% of Democrat voters in California would be, quote, joyful about a Harris bid, and 41% would be mostly excited. So, obviously, this probably seems like the most logical choice if she wants to stay in power. Less risk, less reward, but still, it's a pretty big reward to be the governor of California, but I think you're just going to continue to taint your reputation. I mean, you were the most liberal senator in America before you became vice president. You were. And we know you were hired because you were an African-American woman, not because of your qualifications. Nope. Biden came out and said, we're going to hire a woman and she's going to be black. It's as simple as that. That's why she was vice president. It had nothing to do with anything else. Nothing to do with it. But the article does add down here, it's kind of funny. They say that she is not the 800-pound gorilla. Let's see. She does not come into this as an 800-pound gorilla. Now, that's true. I agree, but I still think she's at least a 300, 400, 500-pound gorilla coming into this race here. But the article goes on, even as some close to her say that she's leaning towards running, some former aides and longtime observers in the state say they doubt Harris will run for governor because she has been, as one former aide put it, absent from events that have dominated the state. You know, that's true. She has been completely down. Tim Walz has been there more than she has been. She's been complete absent from, okay, not only state politics, but national politics. Like, you take Kamala Harris's name away from her resume. She's the vice president, a senator, an attorney general, a district attorney from one of the larger cities in America. Okay, with that resume, anyone would be the front runner of the Democrat, of any party. But because she was a DEI candidate, she was a DEI hire, she was not qualified for this, she doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know how to handle this resume. She should be leaning in to the resume that she has right now. Even though I think she's a horrible candidate, I think she would be a horrible president, she was a horrible vice president, she's a horrible senator, a horrible district attorney, a horrible attorney general. Anyone with that track record, anyone with that resume should be the front runner for the Democrats in 2028. But where are we at right now? I guess we can go down to the opinion polling. Right now we have Kamala Harris roughly at about 25%. 25% you're looking at right now. Yep, that's what we're looking at right now. Barely getting 1 in 4 Democrat voters at the end of the day, which is kind of a joke. It really is. And that's why I think it's probably best that she runs for California governor, but maybe they reject her. Maybe they reject her too. I think she did a horrible job campaigning. We're just going to have to see. We're going to have to see exactly what happens. But as of right now, you look in the primary in the Democrat primary. Pretty clear that Kamala Harris, if she enters, she will most likely be a leader in it. She will most likely be the leader in these Democrat primaries, or I should say in the open primary in California. She will most likely move forward. That's just the reality. But now she has to weigh her options. Does she go for a consolation prize? Do people feel that this is a consolation prize? Or does she move forward? Does she try and run for president in 2028? I think there's a lot of people who don't want her. Remember, Biden didn't want her, Obama didn't want her, Michelle didn't want her, Nancy Pelosi didn't want her, Chuck Schumer didn't. Nobody wanted her to be the nominee. No one did. She basically had to beg for these endorsements from Biden, from Obama. So I think if she's smart, she'll run for governor. But who knows? But then when she runs for governor, I don't want those words to be associated with me that I called her smart. But that is going to wrap things up for today, folks. In this report showing Kamala Harris leaning towards running for governor in California. Obviously, this would be some big news, the first major step for the former vice president, since she left office in January of 2025. But that's going to wrap things up for today, folks. As always, drop down below, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you never miss another video from us again in the future. And folks, we will catch you next time.